Welcome back, everyone, to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 133, Black IT Talk. I am going to be running this hangout tonight by myself. There is a docket in the description beneath the video. Please hit the like button as you come in, and we will get started. Bryce Williams, what's going on? I'll probably give it 90 seconds before we get started. The topics going to be. I think the docket is a little bit longer than traditionally what I do, but what we do. But we'll try to squeeze in as much as we can. Yeah, absolutely, Bryce. Thank you for coming. Let me just kind of run down the docket. So first on the docket would be state of cloud computing, and then you have your subsets. And number two would be cloud cert talk, which coincides with number one on the docket. And then number three is the state of virtualization. Just have a talk about virtualization because we haven't covered that yet. We covered pretty much everything else, but we didn't cover virtualization. We covered cloud before, but this is just a update on some of the news and stuff. And then number four, it will be who are the players in virtualization, and five, what is the business case for virtualization? Six, what are the certifications available in reference to virtualization? And then finally, we'll go into state of IT networking. And number eight is, what certifications are available in that realm as well. And then eight will be open mic. We should fly through this pretty fast as long as we don't get any questions. Maya, what's going on? PCU. And the thing is, if you guys have a topic that you want us to cover, always put it in the chat. Something that we can actually research, and then we can, bring it to light. Yeah, Lionel's not here with us tonight, so I'm not, not sure where he's at right now, but maybe he'll jump on later. Yeah, I definitely think that 2019 is going to be a breakout year for IT. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of new things are coming out that wasn't out years ago. Things that people have been waiting on for a long, long time. 5G, new smartphones, new IoT devices, uh, new Chromebooks with 5G, regular Windows laptops with 5G, tablets, new Microsoft Surfaces coming out, um, new Android phones. Just a whole lot of technology that we hadn't seen before, and things that you've been waiting on is coming. So we got to get ready for it. I'll give it another 30 seconds. See if anybody else jumps on. All right, we'll get started. So what happened, and the last time we covered this was that we discussed cloud computing from top to bottom from a high level, and we didn't really go really in depth. But I'll cover what I think is my predictions for 2019, where the cloud industry is going to be going, and what you should probably be looking at. Sound thrills going on. Um, the state of cloud computing is at the breakout point where it's matured. It's hit its maturation rate. So now you see new technologies such as serverless computing, microservices, containerization, uh, new players in the game now. Microsoft's Azure has taken place, um, eating up at Amazon Web Services, which is AWS. The market share that they had. Um, Oracle is starting to make a little bit of noise, but they're not really doing much. IBM made a big acquisition of Red Hat back in December, um, so that's going to give them, some cloud market share that they didn't have before. So what I'm saying here is that uh, where you need to be looking at in the state of cloud computing is what what functions are people really going to be going after, and the function that everybody's going after now is microservices, containerization. So let me share my screen. You could throw blockchain in there as well. Let me share my screen. Let me see. This one is from nextweb.com. Poor cloud strategy can lead to unintended silos. The more things change, the more they stay the same. In the last few years, IT has undergone a massive shift as hybrid cloud and multi-cloud have become entrenched in most organizations, while housing application workloads across a mix of public and private cloud platforms with containerized orchestration among the environments. Companies can maximize cost efficiency, scalability, performance, and other benefits. However, the growing number of disparate clouds is raising a concern that has dogged IT forever. Silos. In the traditional on-premise world, silos proliferated when enterprise data and applications were spread among fragmented servers and data centers that were unable to easily interact with each other. The hodgepodge was a nightmare to maintain, diminished efficiency and balkanized data rather than making it a company-wide resource. While the cloud is a game changer in how organizations manage their IT infrastructures, it is prone to silos as well. In fact, perhaps even more so. Simply by breaking out a credit card and clicking a button, individual business units or departments can implement a business application on one cloud or another without coordinating with the enterprise as a whole. It's a pretty simple formula. The more clouds you have, the more control planes you must manage. Complexity increases. This cloud sprawl will intensify as pressure mounts on major cloud vendors to avoid commoditization and begin to compete with new services around workload migration, AI, and other capabilities. This increased differentiation will only heighten the appeal of different clouds to different parts of the company, as well as embolden habitual collectors, decision makers loyal to AWS in one business unit, while someone in another always buys from Google. So let me kind of reread that first sentence. It says that IT has gone a massive shift as if hybrid and multi-cloud have become entrenched in most organizations. So that's what I was saying before, that you don't have just AWS anymore. Now you have multi-cloud, you have hybrid, you have public, you have private. Everybody is starting to diversify their portfolio in what they do in terms of IT infrastructure and development. So now you have to pay attention to uh, the many different assets and things that you can't see because, as the article said, people are spinning up services without your, without IT's consent. So let me get to the next article on the docket. What's going on, Maddox? What's going on, Abdul? All right. This one is from ZDNet.com. Cloud customers pairing AWS and Microsoft Azure, according to Kentic. Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure may be fierce cloud rivals, but enterprises are pairing both giants up in a multi-cloud deployments, according to a survey by network analytics company Kentic. Kentic survey, which covered 310 technical and business executives, was taken at AWS reInvent in November. Now that the results have been tallied, there are a few points worth noting. Multi-cloud deployments are happening at a quick pace on par exceeding hybrid cloud rollouts. The most common cloud combination was AWS and Azure, but there are customers working in Google Cloud Platform too, GCP. According to the Kentic survey, or the Kentic survey, 97% of the respondents reported their companies use AWS, but 35% also said they actively use Azure too. 24% use AWS and Google Cloud Platform together. And the biggest challenge is managing cloud costs, and some still track AWS costs with spreadsheets. Nearly 30% of the respondents said the biggest cloud challenge is cost management. Kentic's multi-cloud findings are worth noting as companies such as IBM are targeting enterprises using multiple cloud services providers, as well as utilizing their own data centers. And this is just a chart showing the various forms of ways of organizations use cloud. Oh, what's going on, Christian?
Hey, how we doing today?
Hanging in there, hanging in there.
Good.
You have anything you wanted to add to this discussion?
I got to say, for a while there, virtual machines, I didn't know AWS did those. I just did like the storage services, and you can set up uh, SQL Server databases and whatnot like that, but actually running full blown
Windows
servers.
Windows as a service, as
Yeah,
well as servers as a service. That
I
was always the case for Amazon though. But desktop as a service was something new
knew.
that just came out last year.
Yeah, that part I did not know.
Yeah, the thing about Amazon is they spin up a lot of services, and it's hard to keep track of it.
Yeah,
Hard to keep track of all the services. So
and the cost, because they charge by what data usage, right? Transfers.
uh, resource usage as well,
Yeah.
right? So CPU utilization, memory utilization, things of that nature, network utilization too. But that's all about scalability. So if you have because you're using EC2, which is elastic computing, it's all based on how much you scale. So
Yeah.
if you know what your resource is going to be, or if you predefine what your resource is going to be or need, then you can kind of confine it to like 2 cores, 4 gigs of memory, 100, 28 gigs of space or 32 gigs of space of storage space. So,
Yeah.
but this goes back to my point that I was making before that companies are going with multi-cloud deployments now. Hybrid cloud was something, maybe 2018, but now 2019, this is more. They're moving to a more multi-tenant sort of multi-brand strategy. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket like they were before because AWS was the only game in town, and that was all you can have. And now you have Microsoft coming on the scene with Azure. A lot of IT organizations are married to Microsoft. So
Microsoft. Yep.
you have no, you don't really know what you're getting into with AWS when you already have Microsoft infrastructure in place already. Your Active Directory, your Exchange
Exchange.
servers,
Yep.
Office 365. You're like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And you're not really sure about AWS because you don't really trust them that much. Not really familiar. So that's what the dilemma is, and that's why you're starting to see multi-cloud strategies go into place where I put I spin up my Active Directory services and Exchange and all my other SQL databases on the Microsoft side, and then on the Amazon side, I'm putting all my front-facing web servers in place, my
Storage.
surveys, yeah, maybe even S3 storage. So there's a variety of ways, or even just using Amazon as a backup. I might be using my data disaster recovery as a service on Amazon for cold storage. There's a lot of strategies that go into this, and that's why you got to be multifaceted in this area. But yeah, like the article said, 97% organizations are with AWS, but that's starting to change now. You're going to see that a big change by the end of the year because Azure is in play right now, and a lot of companies don't really need to go with Amazon if they get all their get their bread buttered at Microsoft, especially with the cost that Microsoft is the business model that Microsoft is running with.
If we get a few more people to get their Linux certifications, I think Red Hat's going to step up.
Well, remember that IBM bought Red Hat,
Bought
so
them.
now it's all one big happy family over there. So let me get to this next article.
Okay.
All right, this one is from Google's Google Cloud Architecture Solution section. So federating Google Cloud Platform with Active Directory introduction. I put this on the docket because I thought this was really interesting. That Google is setting up infrastructure so that you're not even 100% reliant on Microsoft's Azure, like we were just saying a few seconds ago. So let me just read the article real quick, or the first paragraph. This article is the first part of a multi-part series that discusses how to extend an existing Active Directory-based identity management solution to Google Cloud Platform. The article describes how to establish consistent authentication and authorization mechanisms in a hybrid computing environment. The article focuses on using cloud identity, even though some of the discussion applies to G Suite. Enterprise IT departments are often relying on Active Directory to manage user accounts to control access to applications and computing resources. This reliance makes Active Directory a cornerstone of their IT landscape and on-premise infrastructure. When you extend your existing IT landscape to GCP as part of a hybrid strategy, you want to maintain a single point where you manage identities. Having a single identity management solution minimizes administration effort and helps ensure that users and applications can authenticate securely across a hybrid environment. The article compares the logical structures of Active Directory and GCP and discusses ways in which you can map Active Directory accounts to user and group accounts in GCP in order to implement federation. At the end of the article, a flowchart helps you determine the best approach for mapping between Active Directory and GCP for your scenario. So federation in any organization is key, for single sign-on. So you sign into one app, if you sign into your desktop, that should allow you to sign into another application, and that should allow you to have complete business continuity across the environment.
And heaven forbid, if you ever have to fire somebody, you can just go to Active Directory, disable the account, and also disables their Google account. Just one spot, get everything
Hmm.
secure and locked out.
Hmm.
I
And
had a,
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, at one of my other jobs,
Hmm.
like when Google first started with this, yeah, we played with that now. It's just like you can set up federation services and have Active Directory set up just for everybody's usernames and passwords. We were using them for email at the time. We didn't set up their version of SharePoint, but at the time it was only users. We didn't have groups at the time like you have with full blown Active Directory.
Hmm. Yeah, this is uncharted territory for a lot of sysadmins because for years they've used traditional infrastructure. On-prem servers. You slap it in a rack. You go back to your desk or bring your laptop with you. You fire it up and you log into it and you manage it, and then you are done. Now you have all of these different pieces of infrastructure in the remote place that you can't get to, and you're not accustomed to that. And putting things in the cloud, you're like, well, what do I do with this? Where's the server rack or so on and so forth. So now you have to deal with, I put my Active Directory here, federated services, SharePoint's on this side, disaster recovery over there, web servers over there. It's just a whole litany of things, and truth be told, that's the way the industry is going. And if you're not able to, adapt, you can find yourself out of business really quick.
Yeah, a world of hurt.
All right, let me jump to this next article. All right, this one is from CSOonline.com. Multi-vector attacks target cloud-hosted technologies. The push to move everything into the cloud over the past several years has generated a large number of misconfigured and exposed deployments of various software stacks. This has attracted sophisticated attacks that destroy data or abuse server resources for cryptocurrency mining. I've seen that in the past. In a new report released today, security researchers from Securonix warn of an increase in the number of multi-vector, multi-platform automated attacks against cloud infrastructure over the past few months. These often combine crypto mining, ransomware, and botnet malware all in one. Quote, in most cases, the focus of the attacks is on installing a second stage payload for crypto mining and or remote access, the researcher said. Quote, in other cases, the malware propagates and infects the exposed services, removes data, and installs second stage crypto mining and ransomware payloads. Yeah, this is a very common thing in my experience. Crypto mining, they're basically turning web servers into either large mining operations or just as ant miners, and you may not even notice until you get your AWS bill or your cloud computing bill, and you see that your bill's through the roof because it's utilized a lot of resources. Meanwhile, they mine their Bitcoin or whatever, or Ethereum or whatever sort of coin that they're trying to mine for, and they've made out well. They didn't have to pay for any computing resources. So Attackers often break in by exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities or insecure configurations in services like the Redis data structures or the Apache Hadoop big data process toolset or the Apache Active MQ message queue messaging middleware. They also launch brute force password guessing attacks against a large number of services, including MySQL, MongoDB, Memcached, CouchDB, Postre, SQL, Oracle Database, Elasticsearch, RDP, VNC, Telnet, rsync, rlogin, FTP, LDAP, and more. One of the most commonly used malware tools observed in attacks against cloud-hosted services is the XBash worm, which first appeared in 2018. This malware is used to infect both Windows and Linux servers and deploys additional payloads depending on which OS is running. XBash is typically associated with cybercriminal group known in the security industry as Iron. However, another group called Rock is also using an XBash variant and has recently been in the news after it started disabling cloud security and monitoring agents. That's really big. I've worked in cybersecurity, so I can tell you that there's a lot of times when an agent goes offline or it just stops responding because the service has been turned off, and we lose visibility and we can't see what's going on within that instance. So if we don't have visibility, we have no way to respond, and that becomes a problem. So got to make sure you set your alerts up properly on certain instances so that you're constantly getting visibility. If you don't see visibility within 60 minutes, you need to actually respond or figure out what's going on.
Do you think there's going to be like a need for like a third party service to sit there and monitor that for other people?
You do have third-party services. I think the most famous one is it's out of Texas. It's gonna bug me, so let me make sure I look it up.
I haven't done that much with cloud computing. I've touched Google, and Google usually like secures and locks their stuff down. But like you said, if someone else gets in and sets up a botnet or just use up the processor to like
Mhm.
mine crypto coin for you, and you don't watch it.
Mhm. Yeah, the company is called Alert Logic. They're like the
Okay.
biggest cloud computing monitoring company. But so there's two ways of going about this. You could go with a third-party vendor, or you could set up your dashboard on your SIM to actually monitor for that stuff. Sumo Logic, which is a cloud-based SIM, actually has a machine learning aspect to it. It's I forget the exact name for it, but it's called anomaly detection.
Okay.
So what you can do is you could pinpoint alerts just on that and utilize the anomaly detection and put the anomaly detection on it and say if there's a change here, then alert me there. And then what that alert would do is I'll have it open up a ticket, a high priority ticket, and then I get that on my phone through Slack, and then I can respond quicker. And that all happens in a few seconds.
Okay.
And you can also do is put a hash on that database or that credential, so on and so forth. And if the hash does not match, then what's going to happen is you're definitely going to get an alert, because if the hash changes, that means something else happened,
Yeah.
right? So hashes that don't match mean that something bad is happening, and you need to actually respond.
Okay, there's gonna be a lot of stuff to go ahead and get that all set up so you don't get messed up.
It should take you a few seconds. I mean, you just got to actually, survey your environment, know what you're going for, what the high criticals are. Obviously, any database that has, potentially critical information, It's going to be of high value. Identity. So all of your all your Windows credentials and things like that.
Yep.
Those are high value. And then email, right? Your Exchange server or whatever it is that you're using could be of high value too. So you want to make sure that those things aren't being compromised because you don't want emails being leaked out, similar to the DNC hack. So
Okay.
mhm. Oh, let me finish reading this. I think this is actually a very good article. Attackers change command and control servers frequently and store lists of them on sites like Pastebin for the malware implants to download. The servers receive information about the affected servers from the malware, like IP addresses and domain names, and provide the implant with additional malicious scripts to execute or with updated lists of usernames and passwords for brute force attacks. Brute force is like probably the number one attack vector um, that these guys use. On Linux, the malware creates cron job entries for persistence in various locations, such as etc cron tab, etc cron d root, and etc cron d Apache, or var spool cron root. While on Windows, it creates malicious startup items. Probably puts like AOL or CompuServe or something like that on them. Securonix report includes a list of indicators of compromise, including file hashes for the various malware artifacts seen so far and IP addresses for command and control servers. It also includes firewall rules to help block the attacks and some behavior patterns that can be used to create detection and monitoring rules. See, firewalls today, well, I shouldn't say firewalls today, but firewalls of yesterday, your big Cisco ASAs, those things are unintelligent. They don't have signatures available to actually understand or determine whether or not this is an attack. They may see it as something legitimate. Um, you get a bad guy who hijacks, Nabisco.com and then tries to pivot off of that to interface to your or connect to your instance. The firewall doesn't see it as a bad thing because it's Nabisco or it's Kellogg's or something like that. Something very friendly, and bad guy gets in through that direction, and next thing you know, they're inside your environment. So your firewall is kind of useless at that point.
Yep.
So firewalls don't have signatures. The only thing firewalls do is they open and close ports, and that's about it. You need something of more strength. Maybe a next generation firewall that has signatures in there.
Intrusion protection systems.
Right.
Intrusion protection system. What's the other one?
IPS.
Yeah. IPS, and there's another one. I can't remember what the other one is though.
Or content filtering.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all fine and dandy, but those things can be evaded from common hijack domains.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon. Many domains get hijacked on a daily basis. I've seen, hundreds of domains that are well known in AWS get hijacked because they're being pivoted off to attack other areas within AWS for other customers. So if you got Bank of America using AWS, for example, bad guy, uses, Gillette maybe and pivots off of that. Gillette's a legitimate domain, but if it's been compromised and your blue team hasn't responded yet or doesn't even know, it's already too late. That guy's already leapfrogged off of that, pivot off of that instance, and then made his way into Bank of America, and now he's in Bank of America trying to forklift data, and put it on a Brinks truck, so to speak, and then take off with it, and then drop that payload somewhere else, or he might drop the payload on Gillette's server, and then cover up his trail for Bank of America, put it on the Gillette server, and the Gillette server you're not even paying attention to because your guys, you guys haven't set up an alert for it, and now that payload is just sitting there, and then they lift that payload off of Gillette, and then they park it in France or in Nigeria or somewhere else.
Yeah.
You've been compromised. And no virus protection is going to help you in that area because it wasn't a virus. It was just actually a breach of an asset. Let me read this last
Yeah.
paragraph. Companies should implement strong password policies for all services running in their cloud instance. No shit. Whether those services are used for remote management to store data for applications or broker messaging clients. A centralized patch management system for cloud assets is also needed so that known critical vulnerabilities in various software components do not remain unpatched. That's what I was talking about earlier. If you have a Gillette server that's been popped and they're pivoting off of it, they probably got to it because it wasn't patched. You just didn't have it. It probably wasn't part of your weekly cycle. Patch updates are not daily in most places. Sometimes you may have to take it up, open up a ticket, wait for approval, and then wait till nighttime to actually do perform the patching. That happens in a lot of places. In most places they don't patch on Fridays because no one wants to be here all weekend long in case something goes wrong. So patching is usually done from Monday to Thursday. These guys got in on a Friday or maybe even a Sunday night before you even got in or when you left the office.
So you got to make sure that you test out your patch to make sure it doesn't break something in between.
Yeah, I mean, depends on what kind of patch it is. If it's kernel level patch, then yeah, you probably do want to test, but you may not have that ability to test because it may have only one instance.
Sure.
If it's a basic patch that needs to be applied, then you can apply that and not really worry too much. But you have snapshots, so you can always go back in case something does go wrong. All right, this one is from itprotoday.com. Cloud security vulnerabilities require a partnership approach, report says. Credential compromises, risky resource configurations, vulnerable hosts, and other threats continue to concern security professionals across the industries. A recent report from Palo Alto Unit 42 threat research team outlines these and other cloud security issues. The report concludes that both cloud service providers and organizations that use cloud services are responsible for keeping security in check, although each has a different role. According to the report, organizations overall experiencing more frequent and devastating compromises of account credentials. The report found that 29% of the organizations have potential account compromises due to failing to enforce multi-factor authentication, rotate access keys, or revoke access when it is no longer needed. In addition to cracking down on these issues, the report recommends organizations should forbid the use of root accounts for day-to-day operations and use machine learning to understand user and access key behavior baselines. Organizations should also monitor for deviations to detect account compromises or malicious insider activity. Yeah, popped accounts are usually the first thing that the bad guys want to go after. So
everybody shouldn't have root access anyway, unless you're just going to do that one thing that you need to do, then get out.
It depends on the system. I agree with you, but it depends on the system. One of the things that does happen, for disaster recovery, if you need to do daily backups, you're doing backups every 90 minutes or something like that. Um,
That
root
might need root
access,
access.
yeah, it may require root access, and I see a lot of those logs flying back and forth, and I'm like, I'm kind of biting my nails, like I really hope this isn't, hope this is legitimate. So the report found that while organizations are experiencing less cryptojacking attacks in the cloud, it is still a troublesome issue for about 11% of the companies. In fact, 26% of the resources don't restrict outbound traffic at all. For organizations battling cryptojacking, to report recommends strong network configuration, hygiene, and network monitoring. So, um, 26% of the resources don't restrict outbound traffic at all, which is what I was talking about earlier. That bad guy pivots from one instance to another, picks up the payload of data from your database, and then he egresses right out of your environment to that other compromised legitimate server, and that traffic is not being monitored. So you have no idea what just left your environment because you weren't monitoring for it, and you didn't restrict some of the traffic. So, do you have anything you want to add to that, Christian?
Now I can't think of anything I want to add to that because you're right. If you're not, if you don't have any alerts or anything like that post up for it, yeah, it looks like no more traffic.
Yeah. And while managed container services in the cloud are becoming more popular, many organizations aren't practicing basic security hygiene, which can make the Kubernetes pods vulnerable to attack. The report found that nearly half of the organizations accept traffic to Kubernetes pods from any source. Again, another
Practice.
yeah, bad practice I mentioned earlier, that certain instances like Kubernetes can actually be approached because you're not restricting any traffic. You're not even monitoring for it. By applying network policies, security professionals can isolate the pods and enforce access control. Yet the team found that 46% of the organizations have not applied the right network policies for their managed Kubernetes service. For those of you listening, Kubernetes is containers. It's container orchestration, sorry. And that 15% don't use identity and access management roles to control access to Kubernetes clusters. The report authors the report's authors recommend implementing rigorous network and IAM policies to manage access to Kubernetes environments, and using native security or third-party tools to continuously monitor the environment to ensure compliance and runtime security. They're right. Continuously monitoring actually gives you full visibility. If you don't have monitoring, you don't have visibility. Therefore, you can't respond.
So you would have to should do it anyway.
Say that
Hire
again?
a decent red team to track your vulnerabilities that you have, and then get a blue team to go in there and fix everything up.
Not
But
necessarily. Not necessarily. You can have a purple team operation in that regard. Um,
okay,
you only need like one person to do vulnerability assessment, anyways. That's a part of your IT risk part of your
management.
IT risk organization. So, but a lot of corporations are changing their profile. So your cybersecurity team may become a part of your legal team because there's so much budget in place for the legal team as opposed to IT operations. So IT operations may just consist of asset management of connected devices, and cybersecurity may not fall into that realm because cybersecurity is more of a um, it's more of business assurance. So it falls into the legal. So it may be different in every organization, but I know there are new changes in bigger organizations, smaller organizations, your sysadmin might have to do all of that. May have to do all the patching, and your desktop team may have to do some other form of triage work, such as malware analysis and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
That's just a lot of stuff that can be exposed.
What do you mean?
Well, just like you said, like if you're not paying attention to this, someone take an entire payload out because you're not paying attention.
Well, because you're not monitoring.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't because you haven't done you haven't done a proper assessment of your environment first. Somebody has to do a proper assessment of the environment, whether it's the CEO, CISO, or the CIO, or your who is the director of operations. That's their job, is to do that assessment. Not really the guys, the riflemen on the ground who are doing desktop support or network admin support. You can use certain tools from like SolarWinds
Yeah.
that can crawl your whole entire environment and kind of give you back a diagram of your a topology of your environment. So
All right.
mhm. All right, pull this to my screen. All right, this one is from ZDNet.com. AWS Big Data Machine Learning Services gain traction, says Second Watch. Amazon Web Services customers are starting to move into more advanced big data and machine learning services, like as well as Kubernetes, according to data compiled by Second Watch, top AWS partner. Second Watch, founded in 2010, has raised $56 million in funding and has more than 400 enterprise workloads and 200,000 instances managed. Based on data compiled by Second Watch, AWS more recent services are gaining traction. The the fastest growing services in 2018 were Amazon Athena with a 68% compound annual growth rate measured by dollars spent with Second Watch versus a year ago. Amazon Elastic Container Service for Kubernetes at 53%, Amazon MQ at 37%, AWS OpWorks 23%, Amazon E.
Head on that.
Yep, it was going on, Lano.
Hold on,
Am-
hold on. Hold on.
All right. Amazon EC2 Container Service at 21%, Amazon SageMaker at 21%, Certificate Manager at 20%, AWS Glue. I haven't even heard of that before.
Me either.
Guard Duty and Macy. Interesting.
I wonder if the certificate service wanted 20% because of Symantec.
Oh, it could be a variety of things. Because there's other open source platforms you can use for certificate services. So Chris Garvey, Executive Vice President of Product at Second Watch, said Athena, Glue, and SageMaker are correlated as customers are moving ahead with big data and machine learning stage strategies. Garvey added that he expects Kubernetes services at AWS to surge in 2019 along with SageMaker. I said that earlier in the hangout that containerization or Kubernetes or microservices are going to be big for 2019. So Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, AWS Data Transfer, Amazon S3, Amazon Dynamo, Elastic Compute. These are all the services that Amazon offers. Um,
I take it that Route 53 is their DNS services.
yeah, Simple Queue service, CloudTrail, Simple Email, Simple Email service. So there's a lot of services that Amazon offers that you can take advantage of, but that can run your bill up really quickly if you're not paying attention. So,
Yep.
brother Nagone, what's going on?
Oh, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, fam? How y'all doing?
All right, all
Brother,
right.
it's good to see you.
Man, yeah, man, it's good being here.
Hmm.
So I had a little time here, so I said I got to drop in on the brothers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm a little bit behind here. Am I correct?
We only started about maybe a half hour ago.
All right. What are you guys on right at this very second? I apologize.
We're just talking about the state of cloud computing. Just a rehash of what we went over in 2018. We only went over it in a high level back in December, but now just kind of keeping up for what's happening in 2019 and what's projected for cloud computing and what we need to be focusing on in terms of IT.
Oh well, apparently that is that's how everything is going to go. So that's where everything is, isn't it?
In terms of
Cloud computing. If we're talking about
yeah, explosive market. That's why I'm trying to get these guys who are listening to this focused on getting your cloud certs and things like that, so that you're not falling behind. The days of Geek Squad and taking your computer down to Staples and Fry's and that those days are over. Those jobs are going away because the technology is changing rapidly, and people need to make sure they keep up. So.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, I remember just being in the IT kind of industry myself. It seems like they say every 18 months there's a new release of something coming out, and the game is changing that quickly. So maybe even changing even quicker. So it seems like less than 2 years, something new is seriously on the horizon. And if you're not updating your skills or upgrading them, you're falling behind.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and getting ahead. A lot of guys who are doing desktop support at Geek Squad and stuff, they're not having these conversations. They're not even ready for any of this. Fixing laptops is cool when you're young and you don't have any kids, but when you have a family to feed, you got to step your game up. You don't want to get left behind, especially by age. A lot of age discrimination is happening now. So
that's true, and it seems like with Geek Squad and those places, they're going into people's kind of houses and stuff, and dealing with kind of small computing networks where kind of people are not really upgrading their systems that much. But it seems as though if you're dealing in certain corporate spots or even more advanced companies, things are changing a lot quicker. So I think so many of the people that are out there are not really up to the newest stuff that are even using that are even in a collaborative computing environment.
Yeah, but that's starting to change now too. You're going to start to see big changes come from Microsoft. Big changes come from Google. Chrome OS. I have a Chromebook right now, and I never turn it off. I don't have to reboot it at all. I haven't rebooted in about 2 months.
And what's the name of that new OS they're supposed to be coming out with? Is it Fuchsia?
Yeah, Fuchsia.
Yeah.
Fuchsia, I think that's how it's pronounced. I know you have anything you want to add to this?
Oh no, I'm just catching up. I agree with you all when you all say that these are certifications that are going to, whoever's listening to this live or backplay, these are certifications that are going to help them in the future because of the seemingly onslaught of new technology. So I am in agreement.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the state of the docket right now for cloud computing. So basically, multi cloud strategies are taking place. Hybrid cloud strategies are starting to wean off, but they still exist. Containerization is happening in the cloud. Microservices, things you got to pay attention to, and the cybersecurity aspect plays into all of this. So you have to make sure that your whole entire stack is actually being assessed for patch vulnerabilities as well as alert capability, so that you're seeing, you're having visibility because you're monitoring.
When we're looking at also from the development side, how would I say, program development, Java and C and so forth, as far as cloud computing is concerned, what new developments are going on there as well? Would you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the language portion, Python is really what everybody's going for right now. So you still have C++, you still have C being used on the legacy side, but in terms of going forward, Go as a language, Python and JavaScript is really big right now because JavaScript is HTML. So if you can think for a second that the amount of possibilities that come out of HTML now is that you can develop blockchain in JavaScript, you can develop tokens in JavaScript, and you can do you can put certificates in JavaScript now too. So, and you can use tokens for certificates as well now. So there's a lot that's coming out of JavaScript because a lot of phones are HTML5 centric. So from a cloud computing perspective, this allows interoperability without any incompatibility issues.
Okay, and I would also like to say, what about C#? You know, coming from the C programming side, the C# side of the fence. Would you have any answers on that? I mean, I have an idea, but I'd like you to certainly, talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's more on the Microsoft side.
Yep.
So if you're a Microsoft shop, C# would probably be your thing to go to. But for the most part, even Microsoft has adopted Python.
Yeah, I got that with my last update. Python 3.7?
Yeah, 3.7 is the latest one.
Yep.
Yeah, most people are still using 2.7, but 3.7 is just the latest one. But there's so many new features inside 3.7. A lot of people haven't really stepped it up that much because most of their applications were developed in 2.7. So there's not so much they can do with 3.7 at the moment, unless they build their applications up from the ground up. With 3.7, it's not going to be all that useful.
Great update. That's good stuff. Great stuff, Mike.
All right, let me get to the certifications real quick. All right, this one is from TechCrunch.com. Google launches new certification courses for cloud developers and engineers. Today, Google today announced the launch of new certification and training programs for cloud developers and engineers. Professional cloud developer, professional cloud network engineer is in beta right now, and professional cloud security engineer that's in beta right now as well. And new G Suite certification. So G Suite being open, open docs or Google Docs, I should say, and Gmail and spreadsheets and stuff like that. So G Suite certification stands out a bit because it's cheaper, $75, and far less technical than its counterparts in today's release. But as Google notes, the overall idea here is to address the, quote, cloud skills crisis. The reason for the G Suite course, Google says, is that the key to a successful cloud transformation is developing skills throughout the organization. To ensure this, the G Suite exam tests your knowledge and key features of Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Drive, and other G Suite tools. I think I just mentioned that earlier. If you're highly technical, that may seem unnecessary, but for many, making the move from Office to G Suite is surely quite a change. The other exams, like cloud developer certifications, test your ability to design, build, test, manage, and secure applications on Google Cloud Platform. They tend to cost around $200 and come in the form of multiple choice exams. To prepare for them, you can study with the help of both on-demand and instructor-led courses from Coursera and other Google partners. Google notes that IT managers have a hard time finding candidates with the right skills, so it's trying to address this with new certification programs and the company training tools. they're absolutely right about this, because most people know what the cloud is, but they have no idea how to drive the technology. And I think Google is trying to compete with Amazon in this space, because Amazon dumps all of their learning materials onto their front page so that you can have access to it, and that allows Amazon to push their brand as well as lock people into their services. Because if you're Amazon certified, then on LinkedIn and these other job search sites, people look up AWS and they say, "Oh, that guy's AWS. I'm going to hire him. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. He's certified, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And that allows companies to buy, and that allows AWS to pick up more customers, because now they feel comfortable. Because back in the day, and Christian could probably testify to this, that no one ever got fired for buying IBM.
Nope.
But now it's becoming, well, no one's really going to get fired for buying AWS.
And they got like an entry level cloud practitioner certification for AWS.
Yeah, you need that before you move on to any of the other certifications. So that's the entry level point. You can Christian, you'll pass that with your eyes closed, so that's not a big deal.
Sweet, I've been studying for a while because I was panicking, so I know nothing.
Hey, I want to input this. I was looking at something on at a video, and this guy named Jimmy Song, he Bitcoin blockchain developer, and he's coming out with a book on March 15th. It's called Programming Bitcoin. Learn how to program Bitcoin from scratch. So these books are coming out. Little do people know about programming blockchains, like you mentioned, HTML and other. I'll put a link in the chat. That's a pretty long link. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, 2019 is the year. Get it together right now, because if you don't have these skills by 2020, you're going to be left behind. I think the World Economic Forum talked about this recently. So, Nagong, you have anything you want to add to this?
No, I don't. I was just sitting here listening. I think that's you guys are kind of right on. I'll chime in as soon as I hear something else that I feel I'm on. But you guys are dead on it. Go ahead.
All right. All right. This next one is from linuxfoundation.org. Cloud Foundry certified developer. So Cloud Foundry is actually a PaaS. PaaS stands for Platform as a Service, and what Platform as a Service does is it functions from the suite level of cloud computing. And what Cloud Foundry does is it allows for applications in Kubernetes to be pushed to multi-cloud environments. So if you have a Kubernetes stack ready to go, but you want to deploy from one customer using AWS, another customer using another AWS, you can actually push those applications out through Cloud Foundry, and it can reach all of your potential customers within that environment, or within those multiple environments, because it's multi-cloud based. So Cloud Foundry is important for for full stack developers. If you're trying to get to be a cloud computing engineer, Cloud Foundry is important for that very aspect. So I can tell you from, I think, Indeed, I think a cloud engineer is anywhere between 100 to 130 grand a year, easy.
Okay.
Sounds about right on the salary piece. Yeah, it sounds about right. Let me ask you a question. You looking at any kind of architect kind of positions, or how would an architect be kind of placed in here?
So architects are usually director of operations. They're usually the drivers of the team. You can't get to an architect position unless you go through an engineer position. So
okay,
I'll show you in the next slide.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm just, I have a very good idea about this, but I'm just asking these questions to kind of put them out there and see who jumps on that. But good stuff.
All right, this next certification is actually from SUSE. SUSE Certified Administrator in OpenStack Cloud Computing. So OpenStack is the open source version of cloud computing that's competitive to Amazon Web Services and Red Hat. Red Hat uses the same functionality of OpenStack, but it's branded under Red Hat because Red Hat is a vendor. OpenStack.
You're talking about like Red Hat Linux, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. So with this SUSE certification, I just came across this early in the week, and I thought SUSE had went out of business, but they're alive and kicking in Germany. They are to Germany what Red Hat is to America.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how Linux works in the retail environment or the or enterprise environment.
It's very huge in Europe. And I think SUSE bought out Novell.
I think he's right about that.
Yeah,
it's a couple of decades. I'm sorry, show my age.
Yeah, but somebody else had bought Novell. I forget the name of the company, but they pretty much killed Novell for the most part.
Yeah.
That was a couple of years ago. So here, in referring to what Nagon was speaking to a few seconds ago, SUSE Enterprise Architect. So in order to be a SUSE Enterprise Architect, you need 3 administrative certifications. So if we look at the bottom half of the page, we see that Enterprise Linux is 1 certified administrator. SUSE Certified Administrator in OpenStack Cloud. And then you have Enterprise Storage and System Management. So you have 4 administrative level certifications that you can pass, but you only need 3 to be an architect. And then you need 2 engineers certifications, which crosses the whole entire stack again from Enterprise Linux, OpenStack Cloud, Enterprise Storage, System Management. So you only need 2 of those. So usually you'll usually have Enterprise Linux as one, and then you just pick up another somewhere else, maybe in System Management, maybe in cloud, or maybe in storage. But very rarely does anybody get storage certified because storage is kind of encompassed in the whole entire.
Yeah.
It's kind of taken into consideration that you know how to manage storage. So, and then it says 1 other certification from any other track. So it could be any of the 4. So it doesn't really matter. But that's the making of an architect right there. And we just covered that Google has put out new certifications for cloud architect as well, professional cloud architect and professional cloud engineer. And those are very cheap, $200. You can't really beat that. Less than a pair of Jordans. So.
Good stuff, Mike. You on it, baby.
Thank you, sir. All right, this next article is from itnext.io. The cloud skills shortage and the unemployed army of the certified. Why it's so hard to find roles in cloud technology while jobs go unfilled. In the last year, I've met dozens of people who have taken many of the cloud certifications available yet been unable to land jobs in the space. Many have long resumes with impressive backgrounds. Others have switched careers from science or math, while some are recent graduates trying to get into the newest area of IT. None of the people I've met was obviously underqualified. If you talk to recruiters or human resources, you'll hear that AWS certifications are the hardest words on any technical resume. I said that earlier. Quote, there aren't enough bodies to put in seats, they say. Then if you turn around and talk to the crowds of the freshly certified jobless, quote, nobody's responding to our job applications. The chorus goes.
I'd like to ask you, okay, so would this also include like Swing and AWT and all that as well together?
Say that one more time.
Swing and AWT as well. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what those acronyms mean.
Oh, okay, you don't. Okay. All right. All right.
Mhm.
All right. I'll move on from that. I'll talk about that later. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mhm. Typically, we ha- typically we have shortening 5-year cycles in tech that cause clamoring for new skills. First, it was the internet, HTML, Perl, PHP. Then mobile apps, Android, Objective C, React Native, Flutter, and now cloud, AWS certifications, DevOps, SecOps, IoT, and machine learning are probably next. The next te- the, te- the technology itself doesn't really matter. Companies just want an army of tactical workers to build this stuff tirelessly. Back in the mobile app craze, you could find a job with minimal experience. Truly, it was the Wild West. But in this cycle, companies aren't throwing the offers at the newly certified or ambitious. This is very different when this is the different space where the actual number of new cloud jobs created is going to be surprisingly small by product of the automation and commoditization of IT. I talked about that earlier. Each new technology has its S curve, and early adopters tend to overestimate how far we've progressed. In the cloud arena, adoption rates are nowhere near as high as many believe. In chart in industry using users against growth, I estimate it looks like this: startups, large trailblaze, general industry adoption, mid-size catch-up, the norm. Uh, current current cloud adoption point is at the large trailblaze. So everybody is buying into the whole AWS. I gotta have AWS because it's cloud, and oh my God, the cloud, and the cloud is a buzzword, and you know, it's kind of like saying cloud now is like saying Bitcoin too, right? Oh, do you invest in Bitcoin? Oh yeah, I love Bitcoin. And they don't even know what Bitcoin is. They don't even know how it works. They just like the buzzwords and stuff. So right now in the cloud, right now in cloud, the real jobs are available at large companies who either have been early adopters or new projects that were started in the cloud while the rest of their infrastructure is not. This is very common, very true statement. Anyone in their immediate orbit will see roles appearing in the cloud too, principally consulting firms and support vendors. These are where the best cloud jobs exist in 2019. Very true statement. A lot of companies um, want to be in the cloud but don't have any idea of how to get there, and they start a project and then they get stuck, and next thing you know that project has multiple laps because it was supposed to be done in 6 months, and then next 6 months turn to 9 months, and 9 months turns into a year, and then they outspent their budget. Now they're screwed. There are only a few mid-sized companies in the cloud meaningfully at this point, though you will see many jobs posted. Some of these firms realize they need to renovate their IT, but they attempt to do this through hiring digital transformation roles, which do little but frustrate the revolving door of hirers because they have no executive buy-in and budget. I just mentioned that a few seconds ago. They also have entrenched IT that will not support the upstart attempts, and the organization need new personnel in IT leadership before anything significant can happen. I realize there are many exceptions to these broad statements, but generally, I think the placement of cloud adoption on the curve is fairly accurate, and we have yet to see a huge explosion in the demand for cloud talent. A little longer, when the mid caps get into this space and the adoption curve matures, cloud skills will become mainstream requirements for IT staff. But that's not the whole story. It doesn't account for why the newly trained and qualified aren't getting into these positions. Why corporate HR is claiming nobody is out there with these required skills. There's another more important factor. When mobile apps appeared, the new skill sets had no impact on existing IT environment. Sure, the UI UX industry blossomed and there was movement around the development space, but you were unaffected if you worked in the databases, security server administrator, or the myriad other roles then that keep the lights on at corporations. With cloud, this is entirely different, and the language used in job descriptions is a clue to what's happening. We're seeing an aggregation of jobs hiding behind cool sounding new buzzwords. Who doesn't want to be who doesn't want to be 10 times be a 10-time coder or full stack developer? Roles that have been separate for years, database admin, server admin, quality engineer, software developer, are being smashed together because the headcount is vanishing. This is very true. These roles are asking you to do the work of several people, but using your attraction to intellectual challenges to make it sound more appealing. I said this earlier that you just can't come with being a desktop support person. You got to be able to do everything now. It's noticeable right now because automation and cloud have hollowed out the core of once uh, venerable professions. Database admin is hard and almost redundant now with RDS. Server admin is very hard and mostly gone with virtualization. QE, quality assurance, quality engineering, has been gutted by TDD, CI, and CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery, and automation, which effectively developer with stick developer with the work. The jobs opening up include a requirement to know all of these skills in addition to everything else. I just said that earlier. You got to know everything. And larger companies that are adopting cloud, generally they are taking the existing back-end stuff and retraining them as cloud architects or scalability engineers. And this works well because the back-end people have a perfect skill set to learn about scalability, redundancy, and availability techniques. It also avoids layoffs, and they have employees already familiar with the systems and culture. The no ops movement gives the impression that all of these server admins are going to be out in the street fairly soon. But the reality is that the cloud will be very good for these groups, and their roles are becoming more generalized and coming towards the front end. It's fundamentally much easier to take an experienced backend engineer and bring her bring her to the front end than vice versa. And this will be extremely obvious as serverless gains traction, since serverless is basically programming for infrastructure engineers. I talked about that earlier. Serverless computing and microservices and containerization is actually the new thing for 2019. I don't want to read too much of this. This is actually a very long article, but if you are listening to this, you should actually read it because it's important. This is actually a thing. I know a lot of guys who can't find work because not just racial discrimination, but because of this very thing about skill sets. So
Yeah, when I was one of my past jobs, when I was in charge of a bunch of guys, and VDIs started coming out, I told them, I was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna have to start learning something else because if this takes off, they're only gonna call you up if they need you to change out a keyboard and mouse. Doesn't matter if you get an A plus or not. It's just swap out a piece of equipment now."
or even now you have wireless keyboards.
Yeah.
No need for that.
Uh-huh. I told it's like
Uh,
doctor spills coffee in their keyboard. Hey, I need another keyboard. How many technicians do we really need to change out a keyboard and a mouse? Like, you better start moving up to the next level, guys.
mhm.
A couple of guys went ahead and start looking for their certifications and trying to move up. Some of the guys were like, "Man, this job will never die," and it died out.
It's good when you're young.
Yeah.
Um, anywhere between 18 and 24, you can kind of get by on that. Once you hit 30, they're expecting more from you.
Uh-huh.
Um, they're, you know, you can no longer just come into work and put your headphones on and watch YouTube. Those days are over, or at least they're coming to an end. I you have anything you want to add to this?
Not right now. I'm I'm just learning right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
What else we got?
This next one is from CompTIA, which is the Cloud Plus. I think we've gone over this before, but I'm just going to reiterate it again. Um CompTIA's Cloud Plus validates just the skills needed you need to maintain and optimize cloud infrastructure services. Cloud Plus covers the increased diversity of knowledge, skills, and abilities required of the system administrators to validate what is necessary to perform effectively in data center jobs. CompTIA Cloud Plus views cloud-based infrastructure services as increasingly important piece of organizations' IT systems. It is the only vendor-neutral, performance-based certification covering more than a specific vendor or single function like security or networking to help you better realize the return on investment of cloud infrastructure services. So definitely something that
How much for the exam?
let me see.
I noticed that like beginning of the year they went up on they used to have a package. So it's like this much for the exam, this much, yeah, for the test, and this much for the official CompTIA book. They shot up on a bunch of these.
I think I paid like $50 for my voucher, so I don't I never pay full price for a voucher, so I've never really paid attention to the price of it.
Okay, now what's the significance of this CompTIA?
It's vendor neutral, meaning you don't have to buy into a vendor's price point and the necessity to study their proprietary material.
So you can go in, it's more just was like, hey, I understand cloud. Okay, well we're Google here. Okay. Then you can go in and learn the Google stuff. It's not going to say like, hey, I'm AWS certified. Well, we're a Google shop. Well, my cert doesn't really
So,
hold that much water. Being neutral, it gives you like a little bit more space that you have a general knowledge of how stuff works. You just need to like get some practice and get used to like the flow of that company, and you can adjust better.
Uh, vendor neutral certifications are very about literacy
Yeah.
more than skill set. So it's, do I know this?
so the CompTIA certifications, would you recommend it as for anybody going into IT?
Yes, it's almost a benchmark in IT. I know there's some IT organizations that are very cynical about CompTIA because they say, oh, you can just you can cram for it and you can pass it in one night. Not exactly. Not all the certifications are like that. Maybe at the bottom end it's like that, but try taking the advanced security practitioner. That's really hard. Um, even the new blue team cert that they have, the cyber security plus. That's a pretty difficult exam. Um, Most organizations like that deal with Lenovo, Dell, HP, Supermicro, um, they're not going to let you touch their machines unless you're certified. So,
Okay, gotcha.
hmm Christian, you have something you want to add?
I'm gonna go ahead and add this link to the chat. Someone's already posted up. Link it. Search for less.
Yes.
Oh man, I can't. Too many characters. Uh, itexamvouchers.com. That's where I get some of my stuff at.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah, to like, get your foot in the door in most places. Yeah, it'll be easier just to go ahead and get you a couple of CompTIA certs and get your foot in the door at least.
Hmm.
There we go. Uh, Cloud Plus is actually on my list of stuff to get this year.
Good luck. This next one is from xfin.com. This is actually a European certification similar to CompTIA, but they do have Cloud Computing Foundation, and it's actually reasonably priced, much cheaper than CompTIA. So you should look up your local Pearson View Testing Center and actually register for. You can actually register for this. I think the certification is like half the price of CompTIA. So let me read the description. The Cloud Computing Foundation certification is ideal for professionals who have a role or interest in the use and management of internet-based services that include management positions, service provider staff, and IT administrators and service managers. The main subjects: the principles of cloud computing, using and accessing the cloud, security and compliance, implementing and managing cloud computing, evaluation of cloud computing. This is actually a good certification to get if you. Let me click on this.
Nice.
Okay. I'm not gonna put my credentials in now, but that's the simplicity of actually going after that cert. So let me get to the last cert on here. All right, this one is from Cloud Security Alliance. CCSK is Certificate of Cloud Security Knowledge. So this is actually good if you're going to go into cloud computing and you want a security background that's vendor neutral. I'll read the first paragraph. Why obtain the CCSK is enterprises and consumers move greater amounts of sensitive information to the cloud. Employers struggle to find information security leaders who have the necessary breadth and depth of knowledge to establish cloud security programs protecting sensitive information. The CCSK lets the marketplace know you are ready for the challenge, and with the first credential dedicated to the cloud security, offered by the world's thought leader in cloud security. Since the Cloud Security Alliance first released the Certificate of Cloud Security Knowledge in 2010, thousands of IT and security professionals have taken the opportunity to upgrade their skills and enhance their careers by obtaining CCSK. It was no surprise to us when Certification Magazine listed CCSK as #1 on their average salary survey in 2016. Let me click on that just to give you an idea. $149,000 as a base salary is not uncommon in this area, according to this data graph.
There you go. Checkpoint. I used to work on those firewalls.
It's amazing that they're still available too.
I'm telling you, man.
I haven't seen any recent ones, but I have a close buddy who works for them here in Massachusetts. So, all right, the third question or the third item on the docket is the state of virtualization. Virtualization, in a nutshell, is all of your compute environment being lifted into this virtual space that is not 100% dependent upon your typical environment. So if you have a Windows desktop or a Windows server, you might just have one operating system running. But in virtualization, you could have multiple operating systems running on top of that one piece of hardware, all at the same time. Bare metal installation, as well as hypervisor installation is actually the two ways of how they go about it. Application virtualization is very common now.
Yeah.
Um, you could basically spin up apps, legacy apps, and and put that into a virtual machine, and then have it spin off from there, and then you're not really losing out. A lot of companies back, maybe even a few years ago, maybe to this very day, are still using legacy servers from the late
Wow.
'90s, early 2000s that they're afraid to touch because they don't know what to do with it because the last guy that worked there is no longer working there. And they don't know how to get it out of that old machine, and that machine is out of warranty. Um,
The
they're
operating
probably
system's out of warranty.
Yeah, everything is out of warranty. It's probably on its last leg. It hasn't been shut down in God knows how long. So app vir- app virtualization, OS virtualization is actually something that's pinnacle to skill sets going forward. So who are the major players in virtualization, which is item number 4? Major players would be VMware, Microsoft with Hyper-V, Citrix.
Uh, yeah. Would you put Proxmox and KVM on there?
Not necessarily because those aren't vendor based.
Okay.
So those are the three major players that really anybody's going to be concerned about. And then the fifth item on the docket is what are the business cases for virtualization? Talked about this before, but the ability to have multiple operating systems running on one machine um, for an organization is actually going to be key. You have a 1U, 2U, 3U, 4U rack with some powerful processors in there, whether they're AMDs or they're Intels, and you can run dozens of uh, virtual machines on top of that one machine and not have to worry about buying more boxes. And if you want to just tear that one virtual machine down, you can actually do that, or you can put it to sleep, or you can do various things with it, put it in hibernation. If you're just doing testing, virtualization is really good for testing as well as production-based employments. Chris, you have anything you want to add to that?
Now, then I want to add at this time.
You're a VMware guy, right?
I use a VMware workstation on mine. I got a AMD 1700,
Mhm.
and on my workstation, yeah, let me bring this up. I want to lie. Come on. I want to say I'm running about 12
Mhm.
virtual machines on there. Yeah,
Wow.
about like 5 different Unix boxes. My little testing environment for a 2012 server, and like 2 7 Windows machines. And that's just workstation. Workstation just for like they usually use workstation for like programmers.
Mhm.
Programmers will like program their stuff. Like say it works in Windows 10, and they'll spin up a virtual machine of Windows 7, install the application on there, test it out, make sure everything's going to work, and they're like, okay, I can push this out, and I know it's going to work with 7, 8, 8.1, and 10.
Mhm.
I use it for my job. I set up a little test environment for a 2012 server or 2016. Here's how I'm going to set this stuff up for this client. And if it blows up on me on my software, and I know not to do this up at work. And after I figure out what works, I just write down the procedures, go to my job, do it for the client. I'm good. I'm out. And that's if you don't have like an extra server to put up at your house to run Hyper-V on, or uh, what's the VMware server? XE, XI?
Oh, EXI,
Yeah,
EXX,
EXI.
ESX.
If you don't have the hardware to run that, just to put another server, just to put your virtual machines and stuff on, you can just put VMware Workstation on your computer and run all your stuff from that. Yeah, there we go. vSphere.
Yep. I know you had any questions.
I'm just interested in this virtual machine. I'm getting a I'm getting an idea of it as you all speak.
Hmm. I wish I had it installed. I don't have it installed right now, but basically you carve out the resources that you need, how much CPU you need, how much memory you need, how much disk space you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
From your
How much memory are you running, Christian?
64. Share my screen if you want to pull this up.
let me see it.
Okay. All right. Here's one of my 2012 servers. I tell it to use 16 gigs of RAM. I give it one core. So that's be like what, 2 threads, 60 gigs of hard drive space. I got it using network address translation over here. And I can just bring up my computer from here, run everything I need to do. Hang on. All right. If I want to go ahead and add some more RAM, click that. Other computer I had was a Xeon uh, 6 core, 12 threads, and it blew up and died on me. And I switched over to AMD because it was cheaper. I had a couple of VMs that were like just running slow. I realized like, wait a minute, I got extra cores.
Hmm.
So I went in here and I was just like, edit. This has got 2 processors. This has got this much RAM.
Hmm.
Set all my stuff up that way. Processor, how much hard drive this virtual machine is allowed to use, where the file's actually located, network address translation, or you can set up on a private network where it doesn't touch your network. Yeah, still like point and click. I want this, I want this, I want this. Bam. Set up a new virtual machine. I just tell it, here's my ISO. Oops. Here's where I'm going to put my stuff. Next. How big of a hard drive you want to use? Do you use this one? Use one great big drive that you can make portable, or you can have it backed up on your Google Drive, or break it up to multiple drives. Next. Customize up the hardware. 2 gigs of RAM. No, thank you. I want this much RAM. I'll go ahead and set up 4 cores. Still use network address translation. Not gonna hook up any printers. Auto detect my sound card if I wanted to.
Hmm.
Here's all my stuff. Go. I like using VMware. Like I said, I like using VMware workstation as opposed to just having a server. I just got everything on one box. But if my computer breaks, and I don't have my stuff backed up, I got one point of failure.
Okay.
And it's just like booting up a regular PC. gonna go through the ISO, grab everything it needs, start setting this stuff up. Not using too much of my memory, not using too much of my processor. And here he goes. Once this gets through, I just go in there and set up everything that I need. I go in there and download SQL, get that all set up, set up whatever services I want to set up, Active Directory, DNS, DHCP, whatever I need to get set up. Test it out, then try to configure out the way the customer wants it, test it, make sure it's going to work, write down the procedure of what everything needs to be done, go up to work and get it done.
Mhm. Do you have the ISO on your desktop, or is it pulling it from?
I got a NAS off to the side. I put all my ISOs over there, backup files over there.
Mhm.
I got a couple of virtual machines where I have to like dial into work. Thank you, Bryce Williams. Appreciate that. Hello, Dollar Will. I think right now I got like what 27% processor usage, 60% of my RAM usage.
Now, are you running your VMs consecutively, or how is it set up? One at a time?
Saturday nights, almost run everything consecutively because I'm like running labs and testing stuff out and trying to learn some stuff and trying to get everybody, all my VMs to talk to each other. But like during the week when I'm not doing nothing, yeah, I'll put everybody to sleep.
Mhm.
And I just pick up what I want to use. Here's my GNS3 VM, but I'll move that over to my Unix box. I don't even use that anymore. Here's one of my Windows 7s for entertainment, Windows 7 for work. And if I have my sys tray up, I'll actually show at the bottom like how many VMs you got going.
So you got VMs for different things you do.
Yep. Different testing environments. One to just dial into work. I got one for dialing into work because I don't want to be like, hey, we don't like the license of Office that you got on your computer, Chris. I
Mhm.
just got Windows 7. If I dials in, I can bring up all my stuff for work. There's no other software that's on there that they can detect. It's just exactly what I have to have for work.
What kind of processor you got in there?
AMD 1700. I haven't upgraded to the 2000 series, but I am thinking about going ahead and moving up to that 3000 series supposed to be coming out later this year.
Mhm.
I think they got one that's what uh 12 cores, 24 threads supposed to be coming out. That's like 5 gigahertz,
Yeah.
if the rumors are correct.
7 nanometer.
Yeah.
You get some serious stuff done, don't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it makes a difference when you go to work and you're like, here, I know exactly what to do. They trust you with more stuff. And I just tell everybody on my team, I
Yeah.
was like, dude, go get your VMware, get your lab set up, and practice your stuff at the house. Because if you blow something up here at the job, you're in a
That's your
world of hurt.
job.
If you blow up something at the house, that's just you.
Hmm. Okay. And Mike, you said VMware is one, and what are the other two you mentioned?
Hyper-V and Citrix. Hyper-V
All
is
right,
from
which one?
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Hyper-V is Microsoft.
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Hey, give me a minute. I can bring mine up.
I'm getting kind of excited here. Is that bad? Like,
Oh, no, that's cool. That's cool.
because I'm thinking, you, I'm looking at what you got with what you doing with yours, and my screws are turning in my head, and I'm thinking, well, you saying what you use yours for, and I'm saying, well, shoot, I can use mine for this.
Yeah. You can set up a
Yeah.
old Windows 7 VM to set up all your security stuff. And like, I do all my financials on this. You get done, pause it.
Hmm.
Bam. And here's 2012 server. Just wait for it to finish loading up.
Bryce Williams said, blow it up at work, and it's called a RGE, resume generated event.
I've seen that happen to a couple of people a few times.
Mhm.
All right, after you get your VM all set up in VMware Workstation, you install VMware Tools so it can like translate your hardware back to the virtual machine, and then you just bam. I got a server, I got a workstation, I got a Unix server, whatever you need. Just all you really got to do is have ISO for it.
Okay.
Give me just one moment.
Hmm.
And there it is.
All right.
Have you worked with a Ento NUC, Christian?
Yeah,
Yeah, I used to have a coworker who used to just fire up the VMs on there and just let them run from there.
yeah. Like depends on which one you got. Like you get one of the i7s. There's
Hmm.
8 cores, and this depends what you need to run. All right, and there's my 2012 server. Get that set up. All I gotta do now is like, hey, I want these features or these roles on here. Go ahead and hook up Active Directory, DNS, DHCP. This is not something you should do, but I've done it just because I was being cost effective. You can actually set up a server, set up Hyper-V on it, then bring up your virtual machine, a Windows 12, bring up Hyper-V to run another virtual machine. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're that cost effective, you can do it.
Wait, so you were running a virtual machine inside a virtual machine?
Because I was going for a certification. And it was like, hey, if you want to get this Microsoft certification, you got to know what Hyper-V is. You got to know how to set this up and set this up. So I was like, yeah, I ain't buying no server. I'll just go ahead and set up a Hyper-V server virtually and then run virtual machines inside that. Yeah, I was just being cost efficient. All right, there's roles, there's features, set up everything that you want. Bam, there's your server. Give me just one moment. All right, so over here on the left, here's my computer. Here's my Unix VMs, my lab VMs, and then here's like all the VMs I actually go ahead and run for my personal stuff. And then underneath shared VMs is stuff that you can actually say like, make sure that these start up at all times and share it across the network. Just a minute. Awesome. You start later. All right. Here's my RDP into my Hyper-V server. Here's Hyper-V Manager. Here's my server here. And inside it, here's my other two lab PCs I got and my Ubuntu server I had running. It's pretty much the same thing. Here's your server inside the server. Here's your virtual machines. Hold up. That's core. And here's my other PC I got. Just yep. Been a while since I've been this.
The password is password.
I don't think it's password. I think it's 1234. Put that on everything. I forgot what it was, but pretty much same thing. Here's just the Microsoft way of doing it. Here's your machines. I mean, here's your server. Here's your virtual machines. Here's the hardware I got in it. My RAM, my processor, my virtual hard disk that's got all my stuff on it. Where are you?
Wakanda.
My ISO that I got to pull the images and stuff off of, and virtual switch. Virtual switch, you can say like this is a private switch, so it doesn't get out and across your network, or this is a extra internal switch, which puts it on the exact same network with your Hyper-V server. And I was just playing with this so I could figure out all I need to do for certifications. Let's see. Down somewhere in here. Bam. Set this up to like if you lose power, I might bring up your server. Once your server gets up, it knows bring up these virtual machines. After I got everything set up the way I wanted on my Ubuntu box, I just pulled the image off and I dumped it on a real hard drive. I mean, a real computer, bare metal. Uh, Anybody got any questions?
I yeah, well, no questions, but I'm learning. I'll say that much.
Now this Hyper-V, this is built into Windows 10.
If you have Windows 10 Pro.
Ah, yeah, you're right. My bad. Yeah.
Repeat that again.
If you got Windows 10 Pro, you got Hyper-V, so you can set this up to run your virtual machines. You don't have to go out and buy VMware Workstation.
Okay, I just got Windows 10 Home.
You can upgrade to Pro.
But if you buy a new machine, just make sure you have Pro on it.
Yeah.
Well, I have the Microsoft Office system. Well, suite. You know what? I just caught myself. Okay. All right. I just bought a new machine and got home. So.
Now, is it Office Home or is it?
Windows 10
Windows.
Home.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that wouldn't have that built into it.
All right, let me get to these next items on the docket.
Okay.
All right, this one is from siliconangle.com. Virtualization is just getting warmed up. Virtualization is unstoppable. Is an unstoppable trend under which applications become progressively more abstracted and independent from the underlying platforms on which their services execute. It's now a well-established practice for enhancing the scalability, portability, and efficiency of information technology assets. It supports flexible partitioning, aggregation, and composition of compute, storage, memory, and bandwidth within and across diverse networks, clouds, clusters, servers, and other platforms. All this enables legacy assets to deliver value alongside the newest platforms for a remainder of their useful lives. As we push more deeply into 21st century, virtualization is providing a more core paradigm for development, deployment, and management of multi-clouds, as well as the microservices-based apps that run on them. We talked about multi-clouds earlier in the Hangout, in microservices as well. The set of practices that now falls under the heading of virtualization continues to broaden in scope and sophistication. The term virtualization now covers such mainstream enterprise cloud use cases as managed virtual machines over heterogeneous bare metal platforms, containerization cloud applications for distributed orchestration over Kubernetes. We talked about Kubernetes earlier. Using functional programming to stand up serverless cloud applications. We talked about serverless earlier. Distributing compute and storage resources across software-defined data centers and providing an abstraction layer for centralized monitoring, management, and control of orchestrated microservices running across public clouds and on-premise environments. As Wikibon has been discussing in our market research, the chief trends in this arena are that virtualization technology is steadily reaching the cloud's edges as next generation software defined data center platforms includes gateways, hubs, embedded runtimes, and other devices on the Internet of Things, IoT. Extending up the cloud application stack as more commercial platforms optimize the running of containers and Kubernetes inside virtual machines. Converging cloud development abstractions as next generation platforms, including lightweight open source virtual machine monitors that support creation and management of secure multi-tenant containers and serverless functions, simplifying access to multi-cloud infrastructure and application resources from unified service brokering catalogs, thereby enabling operation teams to govern resource access and enforce security deployment and business policies across multi-cloud environments. So basically, what they're saying is that we're just getting started with virtualization. Although virtualization has been here for quite some time, the services that are happening in the cloud right now are taking making full use of virtualization beyond what it traditionally was used for. Like Christian was just showing, that was just the basics of a virtual machine. But now you're talking about loading up all of these services into this virtual machine and running the virtual machine in the cloud, and then in the cloud you're automating a lot of these tools. to actually manage the virtual machine itself. So read this next one. All right, this next one is from networkworld.com. 10 hot data center virtualization startups to watch. Well-funded startups are streamlining data centers with products such as software-defined servers and software-defined block storage, as well as providing multi-cloud application support and data as a service. Data center virtualization is about much more than servers these days. Everything from storage applications to entire infrastructure stacks are being virtualized by startups seeking to push virtualization throughout the entire stack. The startups in this roundup are well funded, with the exception of a brand new ones just out of stealth. But even those have seasoned founders and compelling products under development. The ventures The ventures detailed here represent the future of the data center, offering everything from software-defined servers to software-defined block storage to manage hybrid cloud services infrastructure. AV Networks, what they do is provide multi-cloud application services. Founded in 2012, funding of $115 million in 4 rounds from Cisco Investments, DAG Ventures, Greylock Partners, Lightspeed Venture Partners, and Menlo Ventures. Problems they solve. Every application needs application services such as load balancing, application firewalls, service meshes, and complex fluid IT environments. However, delivering those services is a challenge. This is especially true of multi-cloud environments as enterprises mix traditional architectures with microservices in both private and public clouds. Traditional application delivery methods, such as application delivery controllers, can't keep up. The traditional manual approach of requisitioning, installing, and configuring ADCs is a process that can take weeks, if not longer. ADCs are hard to automate, must be managed individually, and they don't scale in the cloud. This is very true. Acceleral Storage, another startup, provides software-defined distributed block storage. $35 million in 2 rounds of funding. Investors including Square Peg Capital, Battery Ventures, Micron, Qualcomm Ventures, and Western Digital Capital. So you see these VCs are invested into this, are actually involved in the market themselves. So Western Digital Capital is actually Western Digital Corporation that makes hard drives. So they have a vested interest in software-defined distributed block storage. Same thing with Micron. Micron actually makes memory.
It's been a long time since I heard Micron.
They're still there. So the problems they solve: new flash media such as NVMe flash have raised expectations on storage latency. An individual local NVMe drive can deliver performance with single-digit microsecond latency. However, sharing NVMe storage resources across a network degrades latency significantly, something that becomes an issue for web scale data centers that must scale out their networks and serve demanding high growth applications such as machine learning and big data. Hammerspace provides data as a service, founded in 2018, self funded, amount not disclosed. Interesting. Data silos limit the ability to create value from data. Data consumers struggle to gain access to data they need, so IT responds by copying data. Unfortunately, this approach creates sprawl, increasing constant risk. As enterprises adopt hybrid clouds, the this problem becomes more acute and more difficult to solve since most IT strategies continue to manage data by managing storage. If IT tries to manage hybrid cloud data via storage technology, a strategy pushed by a number of competing vendors, you end up creating more data silos while also introducing bottlenecks that continue to restrict your ability to extract value from the data. It's very true. Oh, I guess that's it. Any business cases for you that you can think of, Christian?
Nothing I can think of offhand. Oh no, can't think of anything offhand. I'm sitting there trying to think of one. Can't think of one. Now that last one with the NVMe, yeah, I'm glad to see Western Digital and Micron all being major investors in that.
Hmm.
Let's see, for the longest, what Western Digital was just like platted hard drives, and they bought out. Was it Kingston? Or was it Kingston? Who did they buy out? They bought somebody out, and they started doing solid state hard drives.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
But it wasn't Kingston, was it? It was somebody else.
Yeah, I can't think of it right now off the top of my head.
Because they're getting ready to come out with a new Western Digital Black NVMe that's supposed to be right up there or better than the Samsung one
Hmm.
and not be as hot.
Hmm.
So to see that
What is
they're
it?
still like investing with other people in case someone else sneaks up on you, like another AMD that's got a better product. I'm glad to see that they're out there investing in someone else just in case.
Hmm. All right, go to item number 6 on the docket, which is what are the certifications? There are various certifications that are available for virtualization. We'll cover a few of them. The most famous one right here is VMware Certified Professional 6.5 Data Center Virtualization, VCP 6.5 DCV. Let me see if I can pull up the certification path. Here's the certification path right here. So you must obtain the associate certification first as a baseline before getting in to the professional of VCP DCV, and then after that, you can scale up to more advanced, um, more advanced professional certifications such as the VCAP DCV deploy and VCAP DCV design. And then the pinnacle would be your design expert VCDX DCV.
I actually thought about getting one of my VMwares, but I don't have the server and everything set up yet. But that was
Oh,
on my radar for the longest.
yeah, it's so expensive, dude.
Yeah.
I think the class is like $3,000. I would only take it if it was required. I wouldn't come out of my pocket and actually pay for it. So, all right, this next one is from Citrix. So you got Citrix certifications here. New Citrix cloud certification, Citrix virtual apps and desktop service on Citrix Cloud. And let me scroll down to the bottom here, that describes current certification, Citrix Certified Associate Virtualization, CCAV, and Citrix Certified Professional Virtualization, CCPV. So virtualized apps, desktop, are part of the requirements, to study to pass the certification. And then they have Citrix Certified Expert Virtualization, CCEV. I don't know anybody who's a CCEV um, or CCE, which was Citrix Certified Expert. Very rarely do I run into those people. I know guys who are, CCAs and CCPs, but not CCE. So that's another certification to look out for.
All right, Western Digital bought out SanDisk. That's who it was.
Hmm.
And you was right. My password was password on that VM.
You have any critical data on here, did you?
No, this is playing for me to get a certification. That's it.
Can you imagine if one of your VMs get compromised and
They gonna look up. It's like, man, there's nothing but comic books on this thing.
yeah, just don't put any cryptocurrency on it.
Yeah, no, I would not.
All right, this one is from CompTIA.org. The CompTIA Server Plus. CompTIA doesn't have their own virtualization certification, but closest thing to that would be Server Plus. So I'll read the caption. CompTIA Server Plus certified candidates can work in any environment because it is only is the only vendor neutral certification covering the major server platforms. It is the only industry certification that covers the latest technologies, including virtualization. So keep that in mind. I think if you are coming from A plus, Network Plus, I think Server Plus is the actual logical step
Yeah,
for certifications in this area before you get to something like a VCP. Some people get to VCP and they get overwhelmed because there's so much proprietary information there. But I think Server Plus is a good base model. It's a good litmus test.
yep. I got my server plus. You got to know how to like install servers into a rack, just in case. Not servers, but server equipment, switches, UPSs. Um, yeah, how to actually set up a rack. You got to know all your raids and basic troubleshooting on a server.
Mhm. All right, the state of IT networking. Um, State of IT networking. I think this is my own little monologue, but state of IT networking from a traditional standpoint is dead after this year. If you don't know, there is no people aren't buying Cisco switches and routers and putting them inside AWS. That's not happening. AWS has their own security network infrastructure in place. So does Microsoft with Azure. So does Rackspace. So does um, DigitalOcean. These companies that are cloud based already have network infrastructure in place. So what exactly would you be providing network administration for? Um, the traditional way of going about networking is almost null and void at this point. Putting CCNA in your title might have been cool in 2010, 2000, 2011, but today in 2019, um, it's not as cool anymore. No one, no one's really looking for that. Yeah, you can configure a few routers and switches, but do you know anything about Amazon's cloud? Do you know anything about Azure? Do you know anything about um, Rackspace and a couple of other vendors? Can you set up an um, OpenStack cloud or Red Hat's OpenStack? So those are the sort of areas that have made CCNA and even Juniper. Um, those are null and void now.
Yeah. As long as I can get on the internet and reach the services I need to get to.
But yeah, last environment I was in, there was no data center in there. There wasn't even a telecom rack because there were no voice over IP phones. People just had their cell phones connected to the wireless network and had their laptops. There was no actual physical jacks.
I'm actually on call at two of my jobs.
Mhm.
Every time they need to call me, I just told them, it's like, yeah, just call my Google Voice number. If I was in front of my computer, I just put on my headset, talked to them, got everything fixed. I went out with a couple of friends earlier to reach my phone. Wow, you don't even need that much anymore.
Mhm.
As long as you get on the internet and get to your services, you're good.
Mhm. All right, this one is from ZDNet. Most home routers don't take advantage of Linux improved security features. Many of today's popular home router models don't take advantage of the security features that come with the Linux operating system, which many of them use as a basis for the firmware. Security hardening features such as ASLR, address space layout randomization, and DEP, data execution prevention, railroad, relocation read only, and stack guards have been found to be missing in a recent security audit of 28 popular home routers. Security experts from Cyber Independent Testing Lab analyzed the firmware of these routers and mapped out the percentage of firmware code that was protected by the four security features and listed above. Oh, the absence of these security features is inexcusable, said Parker Thompson and Sarah Zackel, the two cyber idol researchers behind the study. The features discussed in the report are easy to adopt, come with no downsides, and standard practices in other market segments, such as desktop and mobile software, the two added. While some routers had 100% coverage of one feature, none implemented all four. Furthermore, researchers also found inconsistencies in applying the four security features within the same brand, with some router models from one vendor rating extremely high, while others had virtually no protection. According to the research team, of the 28 router images they analyzed, the Linksys WRT32X model scored highest with 100% DEP coverage for all firmware binaries, 95% railroad coverage, 82% stack guard coverage, but with only 4% ASLR protection.
Oh, Asus in that range too good.
Yeah, it is interesting. But then again, Linksys is more, I think, more of an American brand now than anything else. Um, Asus, I think that's a Taiwanese brand at this point, right?
Okay.
D-Link, I would never buy anything D-Link. You couldn't pay me to take a D-Link.
I'm in the same boat with that one.
Yeah, you can keep that crap.
Now, like if you got a T-Mobile account and you can just go into T-Mobile and say like, hey, when I go home, I don't get that much what bars. They will give you an Asus router for free.
Hmm.
They just tell you like, hey, go ahead and set up IP calling on your phone, and they just give you a router. They say hook this up to your internet. Bam. So I got one of those Asuses at my parents' house, but it's not scoring too good.
Hmm.
But it was free.
Yeah, I'll never understand why so many routers are so inconsistent in their features. It's just one of those things. I think that there's a lack of quality assurance on their side. So,
Yeah.
as a secondary conclusion of the study, the results also come to show that the limited hardware resources found on small home routers aren't a valid excuse for failing to ship router firmware without improved security hardening features like ASLR, DEP, and others. It is clear that some companies can ship routers with properly secured firmware, and routers can benefit from the same OS hardening features that Linux provides to desktop and server versions. Last but not least, the study also showed an inherent weakness in routers that use a MIPS Linux kernel. The Cyber ITL team that Cyber ITL team says that during their analysis of the 28 firmware images, 10, 10 of which ran MIPS Linux and 18 of which ran ARM Linux, they also discovered security weaknesses in MIPS Linux kernel versions from 2001 to 2016. I expect 2001, but not 2016.
Yeah.
Interesting article. I'll have to check the firmware on mine. So,
I'm doing that now.
all right, this next one was posted on AWS blogs. New TLS termination for network load balancers. When you access a website using HTTPS protocol, a lot of interesting work, formerly known as SSL TLS handshake, happens to create and maintain a secure communication channel. Your client browser and the web server work together to negotiate a mutually acceptable cipher, exchange keys, and set up a session key. Once established, both ends of the conversation use the session key to encrypt and decrypt all further traffic. Because the session key is unique to the conversation between the client and the server, a third party cannot decrypt the traffic or interfere with the conversation. Today we are new TLS termination. Today we are simplifying the process of building secure web applications by giving you the ability to make use of TLS, transport layer security. Connections that terminate at a network load balancer, you can think of TLS providing the S in the HTTPS. This will free your back-end servers from compute-intensive work or of encrypting and decrypting all of your traffic, while also giving you a host of other features and benefits. Source IP preservation. The source IP address and port is presented to your back-end servers even when TLS is terminated at the network load balancer (NLB). This is, as my colleague Calm says, insane magic. Simplified management using TLS at scale means you need to take responsibility for distributing your service certificate to each backend server. This creates extra management work and also increases your attack surface due to presence of multiple copies of the certificate. In cybersecurity, we call that certificate hijacking or man-in-the-middle attack.
Now this is
Today,
not.
Today's launch removes all of the complexity and gives you a central management point for your certificates. If you are using AWS Certificate Manager, your certificate will be stored securely, expired, and rotate regularly and updated automatically with all with no action on your part. Zero-day patching. The TLS protocol is complex and the implementations are updated from time to time in response to emerging threats. Terminating your conversations at the network load balancer protects your back-end servers and allows them to update your network load balancer in response to these threats. We make use of S2N, our security-focused, formally verified implementation of the TLS SLO protocols. Improve compliance. You can use built-in security policies to specify the cipher suites and protocol versions that are acceptable to your application. This will help you in your PCI and FedRAMP compliance effort and will also allow you to achieve a perfect TLS score. That's actually really good stuff. Access logs, classic upgrade, using TLS termination. You can create a network load balancer and make use of TLS termination in minutes. Yeah, this is really good stuff. I wanted to just I added that to the docket because I wanted people to understand that this is happening without having a CCNA and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
all right, this next one is from OpenStack. Open vSwitch, self-service networks. This architecture example augments Open vSwitch provider networks to support nearly limitless quantity of entirely virtual networks. Although the networking service supports VLAN self-service networks, this example focuses on VXLAN self-service networks. For example, for information on self-service networks, see here. Prerequisites: add one network node with following components: the network interfaces, management provider, and overlay, OpenStack networking, Open vSwitch, OVS, layer 2 and layer 3, and any including OVS. So self-service networks means that a lot of this stuff is and maybe Lionel can relate to this, but they're putting smart contracts inside networks now so that they actually self-sign themselves.
That would be cool. I wonder how that would work, though.
What do you mean? So if you want access, if you have an application that has a smart contract, for example, and then you have self-service network, what happens there is that the smart contract would actually negotiate all of the variables to the self-service network. Self-service network actually performs all the functionality of a network administrator. Christian knows that back, in traditional IT, you would have to open up a ticket and have this port activated on this jack at this location and so on and so forth, or open up certain ports on the firewall. Well, that stuff is happening in self-service now in networking, which means that a traditional CCNA person wouldn't really be necessary.
Okay. I think I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go over it again. Yeah. Oh man.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, go ahead. I'm gonna think to myself because I'm playing the playback in my head, but I mute myself.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
My bad. It's hard to push that button. Because like we mentioned before, the smart contract right now, as of now, it's just a if this then that computer code. So right now is very rudimentary, and okay, I forgot where I was going with this. I gotta think about it some more.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me. Well, the second link is actually the same as the first, so I'm not going to cover that. So let me cover the question eight, item 8 on the docket, which is which certifications are available. So this one is from the linuxfoundation.org. Um, ONAP fundamentals, software defined network fundamentals. So SDN is actually the mechanics that happens in the background for self-service networks and cloud computing. And you need to know and understand this in order to get a grasp on cloud computing networking. There are no Cisco routers and switches in this, so this is where we are right now. And then they have the certification, which is certified ONAP professional. And NFV stands for Network Functionality Virtualization. So basically, the routing and switching capabilities services are basically virtualized inside SDN. So that is in the description. Beneath the video in the docket. And this next one is from AWS, Certified Advanced Networking Specialty. The AWS Certified Advanced Networking Specialty examination validates advanced technical skills and experience in designing and implementing AWS and hybrid IT network architectures at scale. The examination is for individuals who perform complex network tasks, and it validates an individual's ability to design, develop, and deploy cloud-based solutions using AWS. I mentioned that earlier that it's proprietary. Implement core AWS services according to basic architectures and best practices. Design, maintain network architecture for all AWS services. Leverage tools to automate AWS networking tasks. So in order to take the certification, you have to have passed the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. It's a multiple choice, multiple answer, 170 minutes long, $300 in registration fee. And study recommendations are AWS white papers and documentation. So and leverage tools to automate AWS networking tasks. That's very important. We talked about self-service networking just a few seconds ago, and that's where the market is. So
Man, I don't see the IT vouchers. I don't see any discounts for those.
oh, you're not gonna find nothing for that.
Dang it. I'm taking a couple of classes with Linux Academy for some of the AWS stuff, and help me with the pronunciation again, please, Mike. The Microsoft Azure,
What class is that? You
Azure,
said what academy?
Linux Academy.
Okay.
I went with them just because they had labs, and I was during that Christmas sale. I got it real cheap, so I went ahead and took it. Got the labs, the ebooks. I can
Or
ask
Linux
them too.
Foundation.
Yeah, I got that one too.
Hmm.
I got the Linux Foundation and I got the Linux Academy. I got both of those.
Well, what's interesting is that I went to the Linux Foundation page, and that open OCA, or is it OCA? OpenStack Cloud Administrator is no longer available for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can pull it up again.
I wonder they're getting rid of it.
I don't know what's going on. I just saw it tonight when I started the Hangout. Let's see, on Linux Foundation. All right, so here it is right here. Certification no longer available for purchase. Not sure what's going on. See if I can find the other certifications. Oh, let me see if yeah, Linux system administrator is still there, engineer is still there, Kubernetes and everything else is still there except for this though. That's very odd. Not sure what's going on with that.
Hmm. I wonder if they're going to like completely redo the certification, like it's a completely new test, like going from one version to another version.
I don't, well, there's nothing posted here. It doesn't say
Mhm.
anything. Let me. We're open mic right now, so you can bring up anything. I know, or anybody in the chat.
Okay. Not off the top of my head. My main thing was the VM. Well, yeah, the VM. Learn more about that. I'm gonna play with it. Uh, I'm going to get more in these certifications. Look, I'm gonna listen to this show over again and see what I can get into.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything else about TLS 3? 1.3.
I think that's what that article was referring to.
That's what I was wondering.
I don't think anybody's adopted it fully. The draft is in place since last year. Um, the only problem is it's not fully,
Accepted everywhere yet.
well, not so much fully. I don't think the draft is fully completed.
Okay.
That stuff takes a little bit of time, usually about a life cycle, which is about 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
I don't know if let me see. The draft probably went in a couple years ago. So I think 2020 is like the year that it's probably going to have full adoption. But you'll see SSL just go away because TLS has taken over. So
Bryce Williams got a question in the chat. Hang on.
what is he asking?
VMware NSX is the same as the other cloud-based self-service networking. NSX. Hang on. That I am not sure.
Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that.
I'm trying to look that up right now. Yeah, because I don't know how to answer that either.
Because I think NSX is abstract for virtual machines and not so much as the entire network stack of cloud.
Yeah, I'm trying to look that up now. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that either.
Yeah, I don't think NSX is the same. I don't think NSX is the same. I think it's a completely different abstract.
If you were starting in IT, Mike, how would you go about your certs for cloud?
Oh, um, let's just start off with Server Plus, and from Server Plus lateral your way to Cloud Plus, and from Cloud Plus choose one of the vendors, depending on what your environment's going to be. Um, the last environment I was at, just visiting, they were completely Azure, no AWS at all. So, and then my last place of employment, they're a full AWS shop, no Azure, no Windows, anything. So, no, not even the Active Directory. So different different environments are going to have different perspectives on the sort of approach for cloud. So having Server Plus, having Cloud Plus, um, those are the baselines for entry, and then you choose which vendor you're gonna get into. I always thought that OpenStack was actually the baseline for for cloud computing, right? If you can do OpenStack, you can do anything else. That's typically how I see it. Um, it's not the same as, oh well, if you could do AWS, you could do everything else, because AWS is pretty proprietary. It's vendor locked in, whereas OpenStack is not vendor locked in.
Okay. Any other questions from the chat?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else. So I think we'll shut it down.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be back on Monday with Space and Technology.
I
All right.
appreciate it.